Brilliance Audio.
The Keepers of Metsan Valo by Wendy Webb. Performed by Exie Sands. Prologue. She huddled next to the trunk of an ancient tree and gazed up at the stars shining through the canopy of impossibly tall pines. They looked black against the night sky, brooding, plotting. She had wandered into the forest earlier in the evening, before the blues and purples of twilight turned to inky darkness. The night had been safe, then. She knew better than to leave the house when nightfall was near. Her grandmother had always warned her about that. But the light had caught her eye. It was faint and flickering low, but as she stepped onto the path and followed it into the woods, then deeper still to the forest glen where she had encountered the bear and her 2 cubs earlier that spring, the light became brighter. It looked like the flame of a tiny torch dancing through the trees, flitting this way and that. She was mesmerized by it, not realizing how deep in the forest she was until she turned around and saw that she had strayed from the path. She couldn't see it anywhere. She didn't know which way she had come. And now the light was gone. As the darkness fell around her like a shroud, she began to hear whispering voices floating through the pines. She couldn't make out what they were saying, but they seemed to be coming closer. Were they happy voices? Malevolent ones? Were they singing? She listened closely, holding her breath as though the very act of breathing would drown them out. As they came nearer, she tried to disappear into the tree trunk, not wishing to see whatever was whispering. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were all around her. Chapter 1. The key refused to turn. Annalise pulled on the door and jiggled its wrought iron handle, a massive thing with intricate whorls and swirls, forged in another time. The door, too, was formidable, solid, well-aged oak with a curved top. It wasn't budging. Sometimes it sticks. Annalise looked over her shoulder at Martin, the caretaker, who seemed as ancient as the door itself. "I remember," she said, smiling at him. "Maybe that's why it was never locked." Let me try," he said, taking the key from her hand. He gave the door a mighty pull and turned the key at the same time. She heard a heavy snap as the key hit its mark. Martin pushed the door open and stepped aside. To Annalise, it was like he had opened the door to her childhood. Metsan Valo. Her great-grandparents had named this fortress of a house Forest Light when they built it on Ile de Colette, an island in Lake Superior just off the coast of Wharton, a popular tourist getaway. They had come to the island to put down roots in a time when the forest that surrounded the house was deeper and darker and even more foreboding than it was now. And to hear her grandmother tell it, full of spirits and demons and danger. Metsan Valo was new when the ancient trees had not yet fallen to the lumberman's axe, when mystery and wisdom still permeated the land and the water and the sky. Annalise held her breath and stepped into the grand entryway, gazing upward to the ceiling 2 stories above. As she walked into the main room, she saw it was much the same as she remembered. Dark wood floors, weathered with age, enormous wooden beams along the ceiling, hewn generations ago from the ancient trees. Turning to the kitchen, Annalise remembered the formidable stove always seemed to be warm. A wood-burning oven was built into the wall. The massive wrought-iron chandelier hung from a chain above the dining room table, large enough for 12. The fireplace, crafted from stones her ancestors had gathered on the property, stretched all the way up to the ceiling. And the view. One entire wall of floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the sprawling lawn, still meticulously maintained by Martin, Annalise saw, surrounded on 2 sides by thick forest and leading down to the dock and the great lake below. The enchanted wood, her grandmother used to call it. The lake was angry and gray and roiling today, hitting the rocky shoreline with crashing waves. It took her breath away, as it always did.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?